Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to my Zoom class on Chinese landscape painting today. How many of you have practiced the first class at home? I apologize that I didn't make the homework assignment very clear. I think it's basically, you finish what you have started or, to paint along in this class. I didn't expect you to spend a lot of time after or before the class, but I do appreciate that I got lots of good works to share with you at the beginning of this class. And then we'll learn something new, okay? If you haven't joined the regular online class, I think you should just consider that, because that's where we discuss after the class. And before the class, I publish the agenda for next one a few days ahead, as soon as I finish this one. Because I always keep the door open, because yes, improvising. So I respond to your request and interactivity, not just the logic, like academic lecture things. So I very appreciate the interactivity here, dynamic chemistry. Let me first to look at some paintings here. Let me. I got some printout from the website. Okay, this one is from Susan. Susan, are you there? Susan Tabush. Susan Tabush.
Yes, I am.
Great. So I'm not going to mute you guys. So you can pin my video if you don't want to lose, if you don't lose my picture, okay? Pin my video. So I didn't give you any comment, because I want to save this today to do it in front of you live. Okay. I think you have done excellent work. Do I need to tell Susan, this is your practice. I printed on computer paper. Now we also have a rice paper to print. So it looks really, if I show you this, it's really like a Chinese painting, and I can edit it. So I guess you started from this small, or you start from the big. Either way should be fine. Just start with the contour. So this contour line is very calligraphic. It's on the yang side is a little thinner, on the inside is thicker. And then I see you have done it maybe with both vertical and side strokes. So maybe you lift the brush and you can, traditionally we like to get some ink here, so you can see. We started from the front. If this is a mountain, we usually start from the front, the foreground rock that nearest, something like that. And this one should have a little 3D, more a little bit, just a little bit. And that actually does not change too much, as you try to avoid the double in, the merge of the two ins. This is okay. You just leave it a little bit. So this is in against yang, yang against yin. That's the alternation. In Chinese landscape painting, yin and yang is not light and shadow. Okay, it's just the weight of different weight, you know, different how to say it, composition balance, opposite elements. So that's the only place I would touch. This one seems a little bit too wet. Just keep it dry. And I know you added a little bit foam there, dry brush there. That's good. Just have some more maybe. So the stone like wet and dry. Okay, this is excellent. I won't touch more. So I give you 5 stars. And then your mustards could be a little bit bigger and not too wet. Okay. Mustards could be added last, before the wash or prior to the wash. So we have outline, we have shaping strokes. By shaping, I used the translation from this book. I think it's the best translation for that, for chun or wrinkle or mothering. There are many translations in different language. In France, they call it traits by someone. Anyway, in German, there are other words. So, but this book is very good. It calls this chun or shaping strokes. Okay. You start either from light or from dark. It's okay. But you can see even with dark, there's a variation because in the beginning, the brush is wet and it gets dry. So we call that yun, the resonance of qi, the harmonious. So then you can add dark over light or light over dark, right? But don't try to do everything in one step. So that's why I ask you to start light, or you can start dark. This is a trick. When you see an old painting, if you see this starts from light, most likely it's painted by imitator or even forger. If you start from light, probably it's the original masterpiece. But that's just the general idea. You know, some artists master, they could start from light as well. But for beginners, for copyists, we should start from light, then add dark like that. The Way of the Brush by Fritz van Briesen. I'm not sure this is a German name. Okay. So when I say shaping, I mean wrinkles. I follow the translation. And this is by Wayne in Maine. Wayne, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I think I already give you some suggestions, right? I think I like this contour division, very good. But there's still a little bit too flat. You can add more darks. Something like this. I think this is after printing, it doesn't take ink. I thought I can paint it on it. And you can divide a little further, maybe. Just, and this is the darkest part. So I have to use plenty of ink. So it's not very easy to paint on this paper. It's waxy. So anyway, you can see what I mean, right? And you can put more dots to cover, to connect, to modify. We talk about the dots later. I think you did very good on this one. And this part could be a little more. So the difference between contour is it has the longest line. And then the shaping stroke is probably less long, shorter. And this, we call it dry wash, or scrambling, like this dry stroke also. So that's very brushless, strokeless kind of. And you can use wet wash, but wet wash usually it's optional. In classical painting, they don't do much wet wash. Okay, very good work, Wayne. And then we talk about Maria's work from Spain. She's very good at 3D presentation or approach, like oil painting or watercolor. Very good, very impressive. As you can see here. And this one, I really like. It just popped. The reason is that she has strong contrast. It might be too strong. So you can put some opaque color to reduce the darkness. You can use mineral green or mineral blue or amber, very thick amber to color it when you do color. But I don't do that today, okay, just the solution for it. But you should avoid, Maria should avoid using the darkest on the shady part. I call it shady part, in part, actually in Chinese. It should not be so dark. Even in Western concept, the shady part is not the darkest. The cast shadow is. The shady part has some reflective lights from the ground. It's warm and the kind of light lit by the reflective lights, the ambient lights. I only have one suggestion to change this one. Let's get some more. So this three tiny stones are too small. So we need to change that a little bit. You can combine these two to form a medium-sized one. And this baby maybe too tiny. And you can combine maybe this one with this. Let me just use a little bit ink, a little bit water. I mean, I try to mimic your approach. So just wash. Wash is very contemporary style, but I think it's okay. You can also find this kind of contrast, between shade and the lit, or we call that up and low parts, protruding and what we call the hollow, or the opposite, So just make the pops something like that. So that would fix the proportion issue. You can put a little gray to soften that. Okay. That will make a perfect composition. If you do it with no or little contour, we call that boneless style. And I will show you early painting. This is quite common. They use just color and shading wash without line. But line, this is very foreign though. In dynasty, they have many cultural exchange on along the Silk Road from West Asia and the Roman Empire, that's something like that. So somewhere from other part of the world, they learned this, but they still kept the line, the contour, and the shaping. Okay, speaking of the rocks, I have a real thing to show you. I found in my garden. It's a volcanic, I think it's volcanical rock. It was part of a miniature landscape, and I wish you can see, you can find rocks very beautiful in your garden or in the park around you. From now on, just study them, and you can even play your composition on the table or in a pot. So we call this potted landscape. This is like a dry landscape of Japanese Zen garden right now. So you can see this kind of relationship between four small and large. And if you put the stones on top, this is called the num of Allen nums, right? In Chinese painting. So if the stone is on top, this is a let me show you a video I did plein air in China. And you can try to paint if you have brush ready. Just draw. When I draw in that video, just follow me in that video. There you find this. Okay. So we're going to this lesson 1. And I have all the materials there from the previous lesson, the recordings, etc. And I have all the demo and the references there. And here we go. This is the video I want to show you. Now we're going to do a study of the rock. Rock is a 3-dimensional object. Draw the contour with the brush tip. Do you see this rock in front of me? This was in China, 2015. And then the contour. Then add texture with the side stroke. To add texture on one dimension on top of the contour, not on both sides of the contour. Actually, you can draw this little rock. So big and small alternate to create a composition. We call it opening and closing, a groove, you might say. And also some small ones on the bottom of the big one also help to support it. Not just the big one, so both big and small are needed. If you can do a rock, you can do a mountain easily. So this is a basic study in the traditional Chinese landscape painting in teaching book, like a master seed garden manual of painting. You can see this kind of rock study for style guide. So there are different kind of texture, surface texture style you can follow. Any questions about painting rocks and the steps of doing that?
I had a question.
Yes, Kel?
One of your when you're painting rocks and you're starting on the bottom, are you mostly trying to use upstrokes or downstrokes, or does it vary?
That's a very, very, very good question. We talked about the Tai Chi, remember?
Yes.
So the yin is up, yang is down. So it doesn't matter actually. But the idea is you need to use two lines, yin and yang, to kind of create a balance, to create a space, a form or a shape in between the two, right? So this is the shape, the round shape. And the other idea is you don't want to draw a complete image sometimes at the light or dark. You can draw very suggestively and let the viewer to complete the image. You can have some just like Susan did, very narrow parts, even flying white. So basically, I do this. I think nobody have done this exercise. I think it's an excellent exercise, the triangle exercise. Remember last time I did this? So you just you draw the yang side with the tip, and then inside with the side, and you can have several yin and yang kind of alternation like that.
So do you, like when I look at the rock paintings, I see like most of the chi is like really powerful at the bottoms. So do you start with the lighter strokes on top of the mountain, or do you start with the darker strokes, or does it matter?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, traditionally you in the teaching books, because you want to keep it editable. You can correct if there's error. Like Emily, your work is too dark. I cannot make any edit for you. So if you have done that in light, at least partially, I can help you to edit. So let me show you what I mean by too dark. So there's stroke, there's also ink. I know dark is easier to control maybe, but I would always start with light. So let me share a screen. Okay, like this example here. If you have some light in the upper side, maybe, or the yang side, you'll make the shape a little more breath, qi, and this would look like a little stiff, and also because you have defined all the shapes kind of equal. So I think if you have done all in light, you can use dark to kind of regroup them, redefine them easily. So and then if you really want to start with dark, which is really okay, but you need to do a draft with a pencil, maybe, just draw the design with your pencil, and then use dark, which should be fine that way,
Yeah, thank you. Like sometimes I start with dark because I like to use the dark ink, and then I go from wet dark to light, and then the dry brushstrokes.
It's perfectly okay. So even dark, there's a variation in dry and wet. So you put the wet in the shady part, but you can also put, it doesn't matter really shady or light. That's very important. Like the book I just showed you, you can basically you can you have a rhythm if you don't change, if you don't reload, and you'll see the brush started from here and ended in the back. So this groove is probably one load, and then maybe exhaust the brush for the rest of the painting. So you got qi and yun. Yun in music means resonance. It's the very long echo of the original note. It's very difficult to do all things in light because that's a procedural painting. And you, in that case, you know the result is, and then you kind of plan ahead, go step by step. That's a Western watercolor approach also, from light to dark. Usually the light, if you start from light and then add darks, it's more like soft edge painting. If you start from dark, you will see more like hard edge painting. But you should also have some loose part, not just like the student practice I showed you. Everything is rigid, so you cannot really make it harmonious. It's just one tone basically. It's like woodblock printing. So don't copy the Master Seed Garden Manual skeleton. You have to use some light. Basically, you can leave a lot of unpainted part. I'll show you some practice I did here before we go on. This is my note. I tried to memorize some interesting 1 through 10. 1 stroke, don't reload. Yin-yang balance, 3 dimensions, 3 faces, 4 directions. This will be talked about in the tree. 5 values. 5 values from dry to light, very light to very dark. So ink should have not just the monochrome. The forms should vary, and 7 colors, of course. These are I just made up. 8 methods of calligraphy, like the character Yong, eternity. So calligraphy, 9 washes means multiple glazing. I should not use the word wash. I will change it to glazing, 9 glazings. So there are flat wash and glaze, which is very light, and you accumulate the dark. Like you, Maria, you did this. If you draw this in 5 layers, instead of, get the dark immediately, you'll get more breadth in it. And each layer should have some different placement, role played in the like a piece of music, orchestra. So you have different tones to.
Question.
Yes.
If you do 5 layers, do you wait until it gets
yes.
dry?
Wait dry between each layer. Very good question. Do not use breaking ink for landscape, classical landscape. They don't like it. It's called sloppy style by Shitao. I talked about that later in Ming Dynasty, but we won't talk about the Ming Dynasty at all in this lesson. Stay with Song Yuan, the grand, the greatest masters. And finally, 10,000 books. Number 10. 10,000 books means you need to read, and some good book like this. And also, I have found a reference in that book, actually recommended by my friend, Bill Buckman. It's a 1940s or 30s book called Some Technical Terms of Chinese Painting. Maybe I'll take a few shots. It just explains, just like the translation of the Mustard Seed Garden Manual, but it has a system kind of classify you see, I found this term, the stone nose here. Is the entry says the first straight rock, a peak, the nearest peak from which the other arise. Interesting. And I also found references in the Mustard Seeds Garden Manual Painting. When I read the inscriptions for this class, I found that in today's handouts, actually. Okay. Yeah, I just give you a brief idea of the steps. So this one is half done painting after just a portion of Juran's masterpiece. I'll talk about that later. But you can see where I started is very light, even some white, unpainted white. And I started to darken it. This is the second or third layer. This is maybe third layer also. And I'll probably do 5 layers or even more, 9 layers to build the depths. And for this one, you can see, can you see it? Yeah. And you can stop at any step, you know, just. So you start from outline. You can also start from kind of wash. I did that also just using Western idea. So you can create this kind of effect. But this is non-traditional, I say, but I think there's some art master late early Qing dynasty, maybe in my city called Gong Xian. He does this accumulative style. He will use 9 layers to accumulate, very dark. And even Huang Binghong, you know, today's 20th century master Huang Binghong, he also does that. I'll talk about Huang Binghong later in this class also. Okay, enough about the review about the rocks. And I'm going to talk about early masters of landscape painting in Chinese art history. Okay, here we go. This is too large. Okay, let me see. This is the earliest surviving piece, a scroll, a horizontal scroll of Chinese landscape painting by a master named Zhan Ziqian. Let me see if I can just go to my lecture notes on the website, so you can see. You don't have to. I don't have to spell it. Why Chinese artists no longer paint gods, heroic military generals, or beautiful palace women, and focus on vast mountains and water. It appears that in the 4th century, as their new interests are pursued under the influence of Taoism, to put themselves in the realm of the spirit, the question they ask is, what's the origin of the world, the universe? Is being from non-being? This kind of question and pondering by the artists and the intellectuals at the time. So mountains and water has become a symbol of spiritual domain because there's the spirits cannot be seen, but there's the material the materialized form, the mountains and water can stir the response in humans. So when we see a majestic mountain, it's like seeing God's, the great creator, you know, or like, you know, if you're in front of a large painting. So Chinese landscape painting became mural subject matters around the temple of Taoism or Buddhism, palace. So they are seen as principles in their manifestation. The Tao Tao of and its manifestation in these paintings. So the purpose of painting, according to a artist named Zong Bing, who lived in the mid 4th century to early 5th century, he wrote a book, an essay called Introduction to Landscape Painting. So he says in this article, if a painter can describe this cleverly, the landscape, he will be doing all there's to be done, and the joy of the spirit is my goal. So he said, 唱神, let me write this. I spelled it on the website. 唱神. Let me write this down here. For those who can read, it will be a very good content for a mood seal. 唱 means unblocked flow or communication. 唱, 通畅, right? Joy is also that means 唱神 means joy of spirit or communication with spirit, communion with the spirit. So this would be a good mood seal. I should remember that for my seal. Yeah. And another very important name or goal Zongbing created is 卧游. Wo means sleeping, lying on bed. So you travel while you lie on your bed. That's the literal meaning, which means that your spiritual travel when you see painting or paint paintings, when you appreciate Chinese landscape, or when you create a spiritual journey. You record the spiritual journey. Zongbing was a traveler, and he painted along his way. It's like today's plein air painter. When he was young, and in his mid-age maybe, when according to the history of Song, Sixth Dynasty Song, it's a different disunion period. Song Dynasty he lived. He has in the official history, it says when he got old and sick, he said that I just paint all the places I have been on paper and hanging on my wall, so I can sleep and dream of traveling. So that's 卧游, meaning travel in the room. So these two words are the goal of Chinese painting. It was set from very early on by the first aesthetic article about Chinese landscape painting in the 5th century. So we talked about the first painting right here. So this is You Chun Tu. It has the first word Yu means tour of early spring. So you can see people are wandering around in a lake with hills. It's like my hometown Nanjing with this West Lake in Hangzhou, that kind of place. Let me see some details here. Okay, here we go. Oops. That's a part of the background. You can see trees and mountains outlined, and this is called the blue and the green landscape, the earliest painting. And this is a detail of a boat in the lake. And here we have found the first principle of Chinese landscape painting, which is the figure must be smaller than the tree, or the house, the house, and the horse and figure here. You see, smaller than the tree, and the tree is smaller than the mountain. So you will never see a tree blocking the views, or people larger than the mountain, or the boat is in the middle of the water with nowhere to go, something like that. So this is what we call the universal scale. So mountain larger than a tree larger than a figure. Okay. Unlike the view of a camera. Okay, so if you paint from a camera picture from a camera, you will violate this rule very easily. So you have to make the people small, and in your painting, no matter where they are the same size. Just like the little landscape. You build a miniature landscape, right? So the figure would be just a size of a bean, according to the Chinese text. So, that's the proportion kind of. So it would be just like this big, right? So
how many boats do you normally paint in Chinese paintings, and how many figures does it?
There's nothing like a focal point, but you can see the main figure, maybe the emperor, is riding a horse, and he is bigger than the servants or the attendants, holding some supplies, drink or food, and something like wine, following his on the horseback. So can you see this? Let me enlarge it. Yeah, that's the detail of that painting. Okay, that's a good question. So there's no focus in any part of the painting. You can, if you look at the whole picture, it's like that. So it's almost like a tourist map of some place. And the Chinese painting is like a 卧游, the tour in the bed. It's a place you can not only watch, you can also go and also travel and live. The final goal is to have they have houses also. You can see that here in the you can see the house there. You see that? Yeah, a little hidden place there. A yard. I think it's right here. See, this is a hermit home. Can you see that? It's cannot go larger than. Okay. It's a fence surrounded some houses there. There's a gate right there. I see this person. Actually, they're entering this vacation home, a mountain mansion or somewhere, from this lead to, this trip is destination here. And this may be a temple in the red. Anyway, so it's an imperial garden, I guess. Just so Chinese painting has also become series of garden building. So you live in the ideal mountain and water world. You can build your backyard like that if you want. Okay, so
Henry, is it consistent that you're going to paint persons of higher hierarchy? So you're not following perspective in that case, that the people that are more powerful and higher in the hierarchy are painted larger? And does that persist all the way through Chinese painting or not?
Yeah, it is.
Historically.
If you look at the Lang Shiling, a court painter from Italy, who did a ceremony in the Qing emperor, a military ceremony. I think the emperor is physically slightly larger, but yes, still larger than the other, but not like Yao Ming or the.
All right. I mean, not like the old cave paintings and that sort of thing. Okay. All right.
Just a little bigger, just enough to distinguish from others. Yeah, good question. So just one, as in some kind of banquet painting, you can always tell who's the host and guest. We talk about that, host and guest hierarchy. Yeah. Okay. So let me see if I have another early painting I want to touch up. Let me see. So in this class, we talk about this one also. Okay, this one is called Emperor's Flight to the Sichuan. Huh? What I'm doing? Okay, yeah. Thanks for Victoria. Let me just hide myself so you can see the picture. This is called the Emperor's trip or flight. Actually, there was a rebellion in the end of Tang Dynasty. This last emperor of Tang fleet to So yeah, this is a detail of that painting. It's called the blue and the green style. And the author is Li Sixun. My last name the same, because the Tang Dynasty also has this last name, the Empress Li. And Li Sixun and Li Zhaodao, father and son. We don't know if they're joint work or fathers or sons. We just attribute it to both of them in this case. So they're done by the two Li's, father and son. Okay, this is a detail of that painting, and you can see there's only contour, not much shading or shaping, but they're washed by mineral colors, the browns first, overall wash, then glazed with green and blues, mineral green and mineral blues, very lightly though, but it makes it very colorful on the silk. Most early work are on silk. Maybe they're, yeah, I think that's probably more popular than paper. Also, it's easier to preserve maybe than paper. So this is on silk, and you can see the cliff here besides the river. This is the highway at that time. The how do you say this? Roads built on logs.
That looks like quite modern.
Yeah, it's a very difficult journey. They call it as Vibo, the poet described, as difficult as to heaven. It's a very challenge. Yeah, it's the
I like it very much.
yeah, the three gorges of Yanzi look like that. That's the way to Sichuan. And they built the dam now, so they're disappearing, but it was like that with very narrow passages among mountains. Okay. Yeah, this we call the, I'll talk about the composition type next. So in the Tang Dynasty, there are already three views of mountain take shape. Three views means three perspectives. Some scholars, because Tang Dynasty has no none paintings. All these paintings are probably copies of Song Dynasty, but they are very dear copies. Okay, so they are treated as original. But according to archaeology, are relics, kept in Japan royal family, because they have good relationship with the town, and then they received some gifts, or they collected some music instruments. Biwa, one of the instruments called biwa, or pipa is a lute, string music, and accompanied with some plectrum, right? The pick kind of little device you hold to pick the strings, very small thumbnail. And we found three landscape paintings. Open them. Like this. I enlarged it, original probably not bigger, too big than a thumbnail. But you can see the mountain look like 1 inch could equals to 100 miles. That's the idea of Chinese landscape painting. Guo Xi, the greatest, one of the greatest master in the turn of the 5 dynasties after the fall of Tang Dynasty into Song, early Song. He wrote the definition of the three perspectives. He said, from bottom of mountain, look up towards the top. This is called a high distance. From the front of mountain peeling through towards the back of the mountain is called deep distance. From nearby mountain looking past distant mountains, this is called the flat distance. Okay, so there are flat, deep, and high. That's the three perspectives. And here we go, the three perspectives. And this one is high, this one is flat, and this one is deep, according to some interpretation of professor, the late professor of Princeton University, Wen Fang. And also he was director of the Met, of the Asian department in the Met in New York. He had intensive studies on the early landscape paintings of Chinese art history. Okay. So this painting is like a Chinese character mountain, right? The three peaks. And you have a host in the middle, and the guest on the side. And here's the ground. So you paint from bottom up, and in a very long mountain landscape, you will see something like that. And there were several layers, maybe something like that. This is the high perspective, and the people looking up. Let me show you the real examples of that. In some of you have bought a book called Palace Museum Painting Manual, right? I just released another version, another volume. You see, this is the cover. So this is a volume on the mountain peaks, and the Ruan means rounded peaks. The round peaks are called Ruan in Chinese. Feng means peak, and I don't know what's the English name for the round peaks. Mount? Are these mount? I'm not sure. So this is the Palace Museum, and what this book is, they put side by side some illustration from the Mustard Seeds Garden Manual of Painting with some collections of the Palace Museum or the other museums. So this is a very useful book. Like this one, this is the Mustard Seed Garden, and this is where you start, like we did in the first class. Then you add small stones. You start from large to small. You can leave some gaps between the lines and fill in these gaps with a small stone. That's what this is illustrated. And one of the approach is this. So we talk about different principles. Okay, here is the idea. Let me go to here. So this is a high perspective example of a real masterpiece. This painting is very tall. It's like 2 meters and 6 centimeters. It's more than 2 meters tall. When I see this painting, I asked, you know, as described by Zongbing in his article, it's a communion of God and the man. I think you can, you know, I had tears in my eyes when I see that. It's just like you see an image of a Buddha or some, you know, deity. You really feel the natural, the majesty of that. I think I got frozen again. Okay. Let me.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I thought I was frozen. I'm sorry. I just restart this. Okay. So next is the deep perspective. Deep perspective, like this painting we just saw, the two lead generals, these father and son team. So this painting has like a diagonal perspective, maybe you call it, or you know, from front to the overlapping mountains from front to the back with clouds. That's the way we call the deep perspective. This is the Mustard Seed Garden Manual page. And this is the flat perspective. The flat perspective means it's a horizontal, basically. This is Dongyuan, my hometown painter. You know, he lived in Nanjing in the late Tang Dynasty. After the collapse of Tang Empire, this small Tang Dynasty captured in Nanjing. He was a court painter in Nanjing, and he painted the local landscape of my hometown. It's like the lake called Xuanwu in our city, and then like this kind of hills, not too high, not too. It's more like the, let me see. Yeah, yeah, this one. Yeah, it's like this. rounded top. These are earth mountains, by the way. So there are two schools: the stone mountains and the earthen mountains, earth covered or stone covered. Different northern or southern school. Dong Yuan is the southern schoolmaster. And we'll look at Dong Yuan a little more, and then we will paint in his style maybe for this class. Let me show you some other paintings here. Okay. So this was the topic of an international conference, and people from all over the world, the specialists, I mean, to see this painting, and then they decide it's, most of them now believe it's a true Dong Yuan piece, not a fake by Zhang Daiqian. Remember Zhang Daiqian? James Cahill believe he faked this painting. But if you have done any painting, you know, I think any student in this class can tell it's a masterpiece. If you don't, I don't think Zhang Daiqian could reproduce this, you know, seriously. Yeah, this is a masterpiece, of course. Okay. Dong Yuan has characterized by the long parallel lines called pima, or what do you call it? Hemp fiber. It's wrinkled like a hemp. Okay. Okay. This is his typical piece, you know, rounded mountains with fantou or lawn of autumn and river banks like that. And this is very typical Dong Yuan style. The Yangtze River area, the lower Yangtze River area. And you can see the figures on the river bank, very tiny, very small, right? This is detail of the painting. And you can see the little figure on this left, and also the lines of the long pima or hemp wrinkle, hemp stroke. Some are short. When I see this some painting like this in Shanghai Museum in person, I noticed you don't see anything when you get close up. They're all dots and little marks. And when you see the distance, like this, you know, like Impressionists, you see they represent things of mountain or trees. This is called the flat perspective. This is one of another piece now regarded as authentic. I tried to copy this one, but not very good. Later, let's finish the slides first. So this is another Dong Yuan in oh, this is the copy I have. I can show you. This is my copy of Dong Yuan flat landscape. I did this in less than 1 hour. It's too fast. It's supposed to do this in, if not weeks, but days, maybe, with many, many layers. Okay. And this is another vertical piece of his more kind of color version. So he does both green and blue, which is the characteristic of Tang Dynasty painting. He lived in the turn of Tang to Song. turn of the dynasties. Yeah. Same painting of the early. Oh, this is another famous painting by Dong Yuan. He did some mountain very familiar to me because like the mountain we see in Nanjing with rocks on the bottom, on the top, the fanto, the nom of autumn. Okay, and he has a good student, a monk, a Buddhist monk called Juran. So Dong and Ji from the school of a Southern Landscape School in Chinese art history. Juran. Okay, let me see which pen. This one. And this is Juran. Juran's Seeking of Tao in Autumn Mountain. Seeking of Tao in Autumn Mountain. Detail of that, you see the Pima, typically, this is how it's organized. You see, they're not 100% parallel, but relatively like a parallel. And all the wrinkle technique or shaping techniques are done, strokes are done in light, right? Dark on the moss dots and the trees. So when you copy this, just keep that in mind. And you can see this has no shaping, only the wash. That's the wash, only wash in the, so you can put in the yin and yang, yin next to yang. So you're basically using the yin to shape the yang under it, right? This is how the yin yang works. It makes it pop. This is dark. This is where you put the darkest. And you can use mouse dots to enhance that. You see that? And that's I was trying to copy this painting. I made this little study here. Let me show you again. See, this is my copy of Jiran. It's halfway done. You see. So don't shape on all the rocks. I think I will leave many of this and finish the look. So it will just to balance, to create a harmonious execution. We call that yun, or resonance. That's the original. I was trying to do it. I try not to copy stroke by stroke. It would take 3 days a rock, 5 days a tree, according to the story. And you can see the foregrounds here. And okay, a good landscape mountain should have the entrance, exit, maybe a destination. You know. Also, you see this traveling like a trail along this valley, and lead your eye all the way to the top, right? And this is the idea of 可行. 可行 means you can walk in. 可居 means you can live, you can reside. Not just 可望, of course, you can watch, but that's the idea, a concept of early Chinese landscape painting. And he lived in the early Song dynasty. So he studied with Dong Yuan in Nanjing and was captured by the Song dynasty and moved to north. And he carried on the tradition in the north, the court, and also influenced by the northern school. So his painting also has this monumental look, like Gaoyuan, the high perspective,
What is the painter's name again, Henry? Please,
Juran.
spell, please.
You can find that, let me see. Okay, Juran. Yeah, this is the name of a Buddhist Dharma name.
Okay.
Ran, yeah.
Master Henry, when you're doing the strokes right there in between the moss dots, are you trying to make that kind of like cloud strokes, or is that just like strokes from the way the chi makes the brush turn? Like right in the middle, yeah, right where you have the.
Oh, this right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you need to see the layers. And first, they might be very, very light, like I did with almost nothing. Let me show you the darkness I started. Let me see. You can see how light this part, maybe the first layer is still remaining. Can you see it? Even it's almost like not like the the lightest part. This is where I say. So you don't have to repeat this when you proceed with the shady part or the darker part. Then you add more like shaping texture. And I see a little bit brown there. Do you see that in the shady part? Also, there's some color, I think. Maybe a little indigo, I guess. Yeah, a little yellow here. I don't see much green, but it could be indigo. And okay, I see gamboge. So basic three colors. Yeah, some gamboge there. Indigo should be in this. Do you like to copy this or part of it? It's fun. This is a classical example to copy. And you can see the word I talked about, the qiu, the Chinese character for hill, the 3 dimensions or 3 strokes, 3 divisions. Yeah. Okay. Another important concept I'm going to talk about is how to start a copy like this, a painting like that, and what's the vein and arteries of a dragon of a landscape, okay? Before we do that, let me just show you some other Juran's work. And you can see dragon mane right there, I think. This is a dragon mane. Oh, sorry, I didn't change the scene. Okay, this is another piece of Juran. It has the dragon vein. Oops. On this side, you can see that ridge. Yeah.
Excuse me, when you say the dragon thing, I'm not familiar with that. Can you explain?
Okay, I have a video as suggested by the Wall Street Journal article. There's a link there talking about dragon vein, and I'm glad that they liked it, and in which I used the painting behind me to illustrate that. Let me show you the image. Okay, can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, we're frozen again.
Yeah, this is the dragon vein. This is the dragon.
Oh, we frozen again.
Frozen?
Okay, it's coming back. Good.
Okay. Yeah. So this title is the blue dragon, flying blue dragon.
What part of the painting did you start the painting?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's what I'm going to talk about next. So let's go back to the mustards. It's very important that you don't copy just from a piece of rock or the top of the peak. You should have a whole the outline of the whole envelope, like you start from the envelope of the whole mountain, and then you see. Let me turn on my camera here. Okay, I'm going to go to the mustard seed, and then we do some copy to finish the dragon vein and starting outline. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me. All right. Okay. In this page, this is called the method of beginning to paint mountains. You can read the text later. I give you this handout already in the class, online class. If you don't have the copy of this book, I suggest you download it from Princeton University. Okay, it's page 153 of the translation of this Master Seed Garden Manual of Painting. I better use real paper here. Okay, today I'm not going to I'm not going to use light ink because you won't see it. But I could use light ink. Just illustrate this idea. You can start from the first, what we call the stone nose kind of thing. I'm not going to copy. I just try to illustrate this idea of dragon vein. Okay, you can do it in one stroke, like that. Right. This is the first. Remember that character Qiu, heel, and then you can develop along this line. Second. So one left, one right, basically. I just simplify it, but you can also vary the pressure and then more to be more sensitive to the quality of line. But at this point, I just illustrate the basic idea of dragging vein. So the idea is that you draw this this kind of left and right. I can just go with the shape of my paper. I don't have to copy exactly the, and then we draw this vein. It's kind of odd, but I think something maybe wrong. I did find that original site I found in Japanese, talking about this idea, how to start with dragging vein. Let me show you the article, and I translated into English and then into Chinese, so I understand what they're talking about. This is very treasurable for me to discover this many years ago. I think I found a well of gold, mine of gold, when I discovered this. Let me show you what I got here. This is called the method of starting landscape painting in the southern style, the style we talked about. Okay, let me see if I can scroll down. Up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's the introduction. See, this is how they start a landscape painting. From this is like a dragon vein. That's what I try to illustrate. So this is how they start: the two sides and then the middle. Or you can start from the middle of this part and then build onto that.
And this is on your website?
I'm going to upload it to my website. I'll send you this copy because I haven't really made it the grammar things. It's all artificial translate. I try to edit it because I don't read Japanese. Maybe if I have a student from Japan, Maybe I ask her to proofread.
Can you send me the Japanese as well, because I have Japanese friends and they can.
Okay, yeah, I'll send this document. It's in Word. So this is the Word. I can also send you the link to the website.
Thank you.
Let's do that. So this is the idea. Let me show you some other examples of that. From that website, I downloaded this Stone Nose page. Let me see.
Stone Nose.
Okay, this is something I think it makes this class worse for today. Okay, so to speak. Let me just give you this. Where is this? Okay, here we go. Yeah, see, left and right and middle, right? This is the middle. You start. This is the nose. This is the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Then left, right, right. You understand?
Yeah.
This is the starting point. So when you draw, you can practice on paper. You try to simplify the model, the sample painting into this line, basic lines. Then you get a hold of the dragon man. And this is the whole painting. It starts like that. You can draw this in pencil or charcoal. Then you do ink. This is the vein, the spine. See that? And some you don't have to make it all connected, but they should have the chi connect. So it's like S shaped there. You start from the bottom, goes to the right, and then the left, and go up, winding up, right? And this is the detail of the top mountain. And there's side veins, maybe, this could be a little like a jump from this lower plane into higher plane through this cliff, passing this cliff. So it has this, I don't know if anybody in China teach this old tradition, just like something has lost in China. But my teacher doesn't know that. He's the only person I got the idea to. That's why I'm trying to transmit, to be a transmitter of this tradition in this class. See this dragon man idea clearly, right? This is what we call this longgu in mustard seed garden manual. If you read the article, it comes with the handout. They use the term skeleton of dragon, not dragon vein. They use the vein and arteries, but also skeleton of dragon, the dragon vein, right? Arteries means the left and right. Okay, the top, the spinal is the vein. I should call it a spine, dragon spine, a ridge of mountain. Okay. So your assignment is to study the Southern School Masters and then try to make simplified copy, because obviously you cannot paint 2 meters high like the original. We can do something smaller like I did. Let me show you what I did. Okay, so you start from this and then you gradually add, you can add the wrinkle and then wash just like you did with the rock, right? Okay, here's another copy I made based on Guantong. It's a northern school, but I just show you the scale, like how big this is. This is my palm. So you can paint the whole landscape and a monumental landscape on a piece, like a computer size paper. And remember the one I did with the 3 perspective? It was originally done on a thumbnail size plectrum. Plectrum is the music piece to play like pipa. And here's another one. We'll talk about this maybe later. This is a late development of this southern school called Mi Dian, Mi Dot. And by the way, I have a brush named after this because I found this brush in our inventory from a very old collection. It's a very suitable brush for this. If you don't have a old brush like that without point, this one is very rounded, not good for writing, but very good for this. And I have it available called the medium. It's a soft brush I used for this entire painting. And also I have this combination brush. It's very good for drawing the outlines. It's called, usually the combination is the soft around the hard core. But this one is the hard outside, soft inside, very, very different and very flexible. Yeah, these two brushes are, and it's good size for this kind of painting. I'll put the link in the website for these two brushes that I used. Okay, so do you let me see. I know somebody may have other things to do. I can stay longer because to make up the missing time with the interruption.
I have a question.
Okay.
A question about you say glazing instead of washing. Okay, I like that. So you go from very light like water to dark.
Yeah, you need to go layer by layer. Between each layer, the second layer should not cover the first layer. That's called glazing. Because when you glaze, it's semi-translucent or transparent wash glazing. So that's for the wash. Actually, for texture or shaping stroke, you can also do in multiple layers. So just kind of.
So you do not. So you do not cover the first layer with the second layer.
You don't really repeat. You can use a different tone, like either darker or light. So I can use a lighter over dark. Now I should wait it dry, but let me just show you the difference here.
All right.
So this is like orchestrate. You orchestrate with different not just one layer, but it's a combination of harmonious combination of several layers. And in some part, you may omit the shaping, just like the master Jiran does. Just use. I'll give you the original reference.
Okay.
For those who are not in part of the class, would you prefer to receive email? Because I was hesitant to do that. I don't want to deal with people. My email always end up in your spam folders, right? So if I send large attachment, something like that. So try to get onto the website. If you need complimentary account, let me know. I'll open that for you for the rest of the class, okay?
Okay.
Master Henry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now, Chiang Kai-shek, when he did his paintings, when he poured the ink, he just used a really large brush, and then he used bowls and dishes to make the paint lighter.
Okay, don't try to learn the modern styles in this class, because the splash ink is too contemporary. So we're not going to. Yeah, I saw you have splash ink, pouring ink on your rock, which is not good idea for this lesson. So otherwise, you won't really learn.
Yeah, it was
When you pour ink, you need to study what Zhang Daqian has done. That is to be able to reproduce, to even forge the ancient masters. Then when you pour ink, it's just like a shorthand, because I can do the masterpiece like in less than an hour like that, because this is almost like a splash ink here, and also oh here. Okay, yeah, this is my splash ink technique. I used this small brush though, not the biggest brush. This size brush. When I test this brush, so you can paint these mountains in just like a Dongyan or Jiran in lines like this, right? But you can also just do your wash. So, but if you use the idea of contrast between dark and light, dry and wet, you can always get a good painting. I don't see any idea behind your pouring ink. So it's just a big splot. That's not a good idea. Pouring ink does not mean no structure. You have to do dry before you do wet. I have a teacher in my art class saw my early painting and gave me that advice. I really benefited from that. I try to convince you guys that don't go wet until you master the dry. So you know your pouring ink has a foundation, so to speak. Yeah.
Henry, could you talk about for a little while about the relationship of painting rocks to painting mountains, and how we can use what we learned in the last lesson to help us paint the mountain?
Good question. So the steps of painting a rock is indifferent from painting a mountain. Do you understand that? If you can paint a rock in the right steps, you can easily paint a mountain, just a larger rock. So a mountain of 1,000 miles, not very different from this rock. Or even a smaller one. You understand? Yeah. So just use the same procedure, like you start. If I paint a rock like that, see, I don't reload. I just apply this to the right place. I just exhaust it. Maybe give some suggestion of the next step. Just test some other parts. Or this is my draft for the next one until I really exhaust it. Okay, now I reload. I clean the brush a little bit. You can dry the water. So it's almost like a one-stroke painting. If you don't want to use too much dark, you just concentrate on let the dark be here only in the front, the mountain, the foot of the mountain. I think the rock is just a smaller version, the miniature, rock is a miniature version of a mountain. That's basically what it is. So,
but you don't do the dragons. The dragons.
Oh, it has a dragon vein. Believe me, it has. So I really concentrate on this ridge. This high. This is the dragon vein, right? This is the peak. Yeah, you can develop that. You can make it into a mountain by adding. So just lift. Let me see. Just lift it. And look at it from different angle for inspiration. And say this is a dragon vein. Maybe. So this continues there. Don't try to be too literal, try to connect everything, make it really look like a dragon or something. That's not the idea. It's an underlying invisible qi. When you see a real mountain range, you can see the the feng shui, right? The vein, the artery, the just like a rivers, and so mountain has a the what I call the vein and artery. That's just like where you divide the back and the front. You know what I mean? That's the ridge, right? So it's concentrate on that. Usually that's the concentrate of strokes or wrinkles, and then you have the you know dispersed from that. So that's the ground maybe. So yeah, just try to make the vein kind of more or less indicate the direction of the vein. It goes from here to, you know, if you go to that book, let me show you the Qing Dynasty example. Get that book called The Peaks. It's available for $5, I think, because I have to pay for the storage every since. So I can give you some pages for this class. So that's the peak of mountains. Let me see.
Peaks is on your website?
No,
we can buy it
it's
from
on
you?
the website. Yeah, peaks and yeah, it's on the website.
Okay.
I just released 2 days ago. It's under the new product page. Let me show you this the peak lesson 2 peak. Okay, here. Let's just go through this page quickly so I can find that. This was small. It's kind of small. Let me just go from the first page. Are you? Let me see if you can see this. It's too small. Okay, let me just browse quickly. So yeah, in this book, here, that's the picture I tried to look at this arrows. It has to do with dragon vein, but it's not so obvious, right? Can you see that? So this kind of structural tendency is a dragon vein at work. It's the underlying structure of the landscape. So if you get a hold of this, it's like you can lift it. It's like a blanket on your bed. You can hold the peak and lift it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all the wrinkles, if you don't have dragging vein, it's all scattered and disordered, chaotic. So yeah, just imagine, it's like, I think that's a good metaphor. I try to find something I can illustrate the idea here. Let's say, if this is a mountain formation, right? So this is the peak. And you can see the dragging vein, right? So I see if I can, these are the artilleries, you know, this left and right thing. See that? That's the dragging vein. So this is the peak. I can lift it. So your painting should have this dragging vein. Understand?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I like what you did.
What about the
Underlying,
shape?
yeah. It's the underlying structure. You should not make it as visible. Yeah, the spine. It's a hidden structure, underlying structure of the mountain of feng shui. You know what in the idea of feng shui.
So when Henry, when you did the rocks, you did the three steps, which was the contour, the shaping, and then the yin yang.
Okay,
So
let me.
the yin yang.
Let me try to do diagram maybe to show you the steps of that. I will suggest you go with the light approach, the light ink approach. So let's just use this ink, easier to get light. If you use bottled ink, it tends to get too dark right away. So let me just use some light ink. So when you do a mountain, you start from the dragging man, something like that. Just you know, a brief, maybe a partial contour. It could be like that. How many students are still there? I try not to give you more new contents, but I do have something I didn't really present. I prepared, but not yet talked about. So in this step is step 1. You just outline, and then you add dark. You make it more defined, maybe, and start to add, you know, shading or shading to it. So that's a wrinkled stroke, right? Something like that. So finally, you add wash and dots. So we call this go outline. Outline, chun is shaping. And finally, 点染. 点染 could be reversed. 点 means dot, 染 means wash or glazing, to be precise. You don't want to cover anything. Glazing means transparent wash. It could be color, yeah. Could be ink and color also. Okay, so this
Can
is.
be both, no?
Let me just put a dot so I don't have to wash. And it's optional. Wash and dots. Wash is optional. Dots is a kind of. So notice the dark is for the dots only. If you like a Juran, Master Juran or Dongyuan, his teacher, Juran actually make it more clear how to use ink. In this case, the dark. So this is the dotting, dots, and wash. I still use wash, but glazing. Okay. Three steps. It could be 4 if you separate the dots and wash, because when it's wet, you cannot dot. Yeah.
Master Henry, at what point do you add the clouds and the mist? Do you wait till it's dry?
Okay. Clouds and the mist is in the rock or trees. So you don't have to give it a shape. Mist, that's mist. Just give it a light and more moisture. Remember the one the unfinished copy that has the feel of mist already, right? Without a wash. This one. See, this one has mist. If you look at you see there's a mist there. If you define it further, it will disappear. You understand?
Yes.
Just keep it light and the obscure, like a blurry obscurity, it creates a mist. Cloud is a different idea. Cloud has shape, but in close-up view, cloud is mist. In distance, it has a shape. And some mountain after rain, like this, we'll talk about this later. Don't worry about this. I just answer your question with this perfect example here. So with Mi dot, which is representing the rain landscape with a jungle, you know, it has this cloud, the same value, same darkness as the dots. So it will merge. Sometimes it will merge. Same thing with the outline in Mi dots. this outline would disappear with the tree. This is the underlying structure, like we talked about, the vein of the dragon bone, backbone with vein is underneath the vegetation, the plantation, whatever, the trees, jungles. So this is the cloud could be outlined, or you just save it without the outline. You don't use white. Just make the white feel like clouds.
Do you use completely clean water to make the clouds, or do you use a little light wash?
No water. For the white, you just leave it white. You just don't paint it. This is a cloud. I didn't paint it. I just paint around it. I use light ink outline. Just give me some guide, like a template, guideline. It's lost in the font lines. You can also use continuous line, very decorative, like ancient script cloud is like this. This is the cloud. This is the character for cloud. And later they become more standardized into, I think something. Still like that, something like that. Become two horizontal bars. But this is the ancient script, the pictograph for clouds, and something like that. Cloud.
Thank you, Master.
We'll talk about the clouds and mist maybe later in the but it's more like late. We do have clouds in the green and the blue style, right? But I think the splash ink is misty landscape is kind of abstract, so it's a pretty late development. Let me show you some other works of this book. You can buy from Blue Heron Arts now. Download it. It's downloaded version of this book. This is the X-cut painting by Ma Yuan. But you always start with the contour. See this, and this is the hemp style by Huang Gongwang, and this Dong Yuan. The one we talk, Juran. This is the same painting I did. I tried to illustrate. So it starts from here. That's the idea of hemp. Yeah, hemp texture. This is okay. There are many different styles after the Master Dong and the Master Guo. After Northern Song. So they each develop their own traits or wrinkle techniques. It's kind of like the clouds. Wang Meng, I think this is the X-cuts. We'll touch up some of this maybe in the next class. We'll talk about more about stylized twin. So, but before that, you need to get clear on the yin and yang. Before you can do yin and yang, no matter what, so it doesn't really matter what style you follow. It's the yin and yang most important. You see this, I don't even care which name of this, but you can tell if the painting is good or not by just look at a few strokes on the rock. So that's why it's important to paint rock, because before you open the whole painting, the connoisseur or a trained eye will tell if it's a masterpiece or just a fake, Yeah. So you can really tell the difference from this microscope level. This is Mi Dot. We talked about this painting. I just showed you, and I was trying to find a good brush in my collection that I can share with you too. Now I have good enough, a small number, but enough for the class. So if you like to reproduce this without ruining your good brush, you can get one for $5 only. Okay, V dot brush for me painting. Horizontal dots. It's very handy. This one is very famous painting, a unique one. Actually. It takes 9 washes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I think they talked about 9, but they only showed 4. This is not the 9th, maybe on top. Can you see the difference? 1, 2,
Yeah.
1, 2, maybe go vertical. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. It just keep adding to dark. So you don't go from here to here right away, right? You build up.
Mhm.
Same thing as you do transparent watercolor. Transparent watercolor school does the same thing, right? This is the dotting technique, horizontal dots, vertical dots. This is 4 dots in the shape of a character J. And, this broken dots is probably very contemporary. Broken brush, split brush dots, and different stylized twin. We talked about this one. 巨然. This is Master 巨然. Juran. And Fan Kuan. I talked about this Gaoyuan, the high mountain. This is Li Tang, the X cut. I have a video on this X cut. It's in the first handout to the Wall Street Journal article. They have a link to X cut and the Dragon Man. And this is me, the small me, the son. Actually, the father me, the big me, doesn't have anything left. We only have this from his son, little me. Huang Gongwang. It become more abstract and calligraphic, and no more learn from nature, no plein air, just copy from now on. Actually, Huang Gongwang was a plein air artist. But most final work is done in studio by the badge. You know, you can. That's the reason why you paint landscape. Okay, Wang Meng, one of the 4 masters in Yuan is Ni Zan. I will talk about this definitely. My favorite, but it's most difficult to imitate. The simplest is the most difficult, also. Yu Zhen, another master in the Yuan dynasty. Okay, this one I copied earlier. I think I have a video on YouTube. Guo Xi, monumental landscape in Northern Song. He defined what's the 3 views. In this painting, you can see all 3 in play. The high view, the flat view, and the high view, flat view, deep view. Deep means overlapping. This is the step of painting that. Okay, you start from the outline, then adding shaping, the second one, and then add more, one more, and add trees and the moss dots, things like that. So you start from the rock. That's why I don't follow master seed manual painting or book. Start from trees. Practically, you start from the rock and then the trees. So the dark trees can easily cover the light mountains, right? So don't start too dark. The trees later will not have but like something like this, Li Tang's famous painting, one of the 3 peaks, so-called, in the Northern Song Dynasty. This one I also did a copy. I will share with you later. I start with, you will start from, of course, pine trees in the front. That's how they start. You start from the outline, the skeleton. So that's why skeleton is, you don't finish it, but you start with the whole skeleton. Then you fill in the painting strokes and then the washes. then the color dots. That's the third, the fourth. So that's the finished step. This print is kind of, and this scan is kind of dark, but it's yeah, it's just still see something there. Okay,
I noticed that you don't mention much dry strokes.
Dry strokes. What do you mean by dry strokes? This dry strokes.
Besides the rocks, you know, when you do the dry strokes.
The dry stroke, you mean the shaping?
Yes, it's the same thing.
Okay. You see this very clearly. What's the contour line? So this long outline is the contour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shaping is what's here, the grays. Gray here. It has different tonalities, and these are the rocks. Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, this is Yuan Dynasty Huang Gongwang. He is very kind of how to say, calligraphic. You know, the Yuan Dynasty's scholar painter. He started painting after his age of 50 and died in the 80s, I think. So he's a late starter. You see, he almost painted just the skeleton of it, but with the light ink. So no wash, I think. Maybe a little red scramble, a little bit there, but no wash. That's called dry brush. I really love this. If you can reproduce this, I'll give you 5 stars. Don't wash. Don't wash. Don't wash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it. I get it.
If you do, use very, very light, very, very light. Just tone the paper, maybe, you know, a little bit before you do anything. Yeah. If you like, use colored paper if you don't like the white. Yeah, that's steps of doing his style. You can see that his nearby, his foreground is almost like middle ground. So no large trees in the front. This is horizontal. So yeah, this painting was done in his age of 74. I think he spent a lot of time traveling in that area, and then he paints without reference. You know, it's from his heart, from his imagination. So there are some studies done by Japanese or Chinese scholars try to match his or others, you know, wrinkle technique or shaping texture with a real landscape. Wrong. You never find it. You never find it because it's not something a copy of natural or real scenery. It's the manifestation of Tao, yin and yang, that kind of idea, and you know, from the heart, image of heart. So there's a book called The Image of Mind by Professor Wen Fang. It's a very good book. I have a copy of that actually. In Chinese, it's very small, but the English one is it's like a huge book.
What is it?
It's called The Mind of Images of the Mind. Images of the Mind. That's the title of the book. Wen Fang, F-O-U-N, last name. Wen, W-E-N, Wen Fang, Image of Mind. It has, yeah, he was former director of the Asian Galleries of the Met. He built the collection there for them. He died 2 years ago, I think.
Images of the mind.
The images of the mind image of mind. Very good illustrated book.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
The brushwood December strokes.
I didn't get your question.
In the mustard seed manual, it says the brushwood in disorder strokes.
I don't understand your question still. Sorry, I just didn't capture your question.
It's on page 148.
The mustard book. So I think you just better rephrase the question so I can. What's the question? The broken brush?
The question was the way that they do the strokes on that page, on page 148. They're saying examples of brush strokes called luan qi, like brushwood in disorder.
Oh, okay. 乱财, yeah, 乱财 means yeah.
In disorder. Yeah.
You don't like I don't like that, but if you like it, you can try. This is like a football style, yeah, like a contemporary style. It's split brush. Don't do that when you're a student because even if it's disordered, chaotic, it has to be. If football is also learned mastered Sage garden many painting to start with, then he started to do split brush. The same thing that the 乱财 is one of the ancient play of yeah, I think it's hard to learn that if you get bored of doing this regular more orderly strokes, then one day you will do that naturally. So when you're getting old, when you get losing all your patience or your time, you can do it. Everybody can do that. But to make sense, you have to learn the rules, the principles to do that. I think you still have, I see a lot of artists, they're very talented, but you have to be trained to be spontaneous, to do the broken brush stroke. You don't lack that ability, KO. You just need principle. You don't have any fundamentals to do that yet. Yeah. Something like this very important to start with, right? And this is the end. So you always start from the skeleton. Then you add this. This is the okay. These are the good samples for you to copy of this from this.
I found on Amazon images of the mind, but it's $85.
Oh, 85. Okay, you can get a used copy for maybe 30 something. I got that.
No, this is 85 used one.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's a big, huge book. It's huge. It's 4 times of the copy I have here. This is a small copy, but that book, I cannot even bring it to table. I cannot hold it. I have to use the easel to read it. Like 2-inch, more, maybe 3-inch, 2.5-inch thick. And it's like 4 times of this book. Yeah, I can show you next time maybe. You don't have to buy that book. It's a very academic approach. It's belongs to the school called the analytical form, kind of just like archaeology. They give stylized template. They use some kind of archaeological dated piece as a standard to judge others.
Okay.
I really think it's not a practical, but I just like, because I'm an archaeologist to begin with. That's why I just try to
okay, I think I'm gonna leave. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Enjoyed
you.
the class very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry about the interruption of
no
the
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Lee. I've got to go as well. See you next week.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Henry, I have a
Henry,
question.
bye-bye.
Yes.
What is the homework that we have?
I'll write you the homework. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have different levels and interest and time, so it's not required. But you're encouraged to do anything you like, you're interested in to learn. My basic core.
Henry, will you send?
is the mustard seeds garden manual of painting. But you use
Okay.
ancient paintings as a reference for your ink work. Coloring.
Right.
Okay.
Henry,
Okay,
so will you give us an image?
I will share the painting I try to copy here, and you can do a portion like that. Maybe something like this. Would that be? Yeah, I will send you maybe my finished piece, or just halfway piece. You know, just to let you see the steps. As an inspiration. I don't want you to copy mine. I want you to copy directly from the ancient master, not even the master seed garden manual. You can copy a portion of a masterpiece.
Henry, what was the name of the book that you were using for most of the class?
This book I'm looking at,
The one you were using during most of the class.
okay, the Mustard Seeds Garden Manual of Painting, which you can download from the Princeton University website. There's a link in the Wall Street Journal article I sent you. In the same paragraph, they mentioned my name and this English translation. You can also get a hard copy from Amazon.
Was that The Way of the Brush, Henry?
No, that book. I'm sorry. That book is my. This is for advanced student, I think. The Way of the Brush, Painting Techniques of China and Japan. It's written by Fritz van Friesen. Okay. Yeah, I like this book because it has rich information and illustration from a well-trained Chinese artist in the 40s. So he does good illustration for this book. The author is very, very, how to say, it's like a, it's very readable, how to say, yeah, very readable book. It has a lot of technique, like the title suggests, but it's not easy to follow beginning guide. So I try to use this book for some ideas, like, but this is very.
So Henry, will you send us some examples or pictures that we could
maybe I can take
try
a
to copy
for some illustration. I think illustration is the most part I would refer to, something like a color using, something like that when we discuss this, or like this page I showed you earlier. That makes sense, right? Yeah, so maybe I just send you this page instead of the whole book. You don't need to read the whole book. It's very hard to read. I mean, easy to read, but hard to follow. It's not a step-by-step textbook.
Henry,
You said,
you said there was a book that was $5. Is that the one that you were showing a lot during the class?
Which book?
You said that
that's
there was
on your
one.
website?
This book I'm browsing here. Okay, are you seeing this book? Let me see.
The one that you talked about, Henry, that was on Blue Heron for $5. Oh,
Yeah,
that was
this
the
one
paper.
is a series of book called the Palace Moon Museum Painting Manual. It has a series of books on rocks. I already shared there, and then this is called Peak, and then we already have the river bank and the green and the blue landscape. So, but these are all in Chinese. I would use them as a reference for this for the lecture part maybe, and I try to draw upon this for copy samples. So you can get that plus the mustard. You should be okay with all the reference. I still have to send you some something I found online, like the Japanese the Japanese secret.
Where can we get the book from the Palace Museum, this book?
The color one is from Palace Museum, yes.
Right, but where can we get it? Or can we get it?
You can get from Blue Heron Arts right on the front page.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, could you send some homework that'd be more appropriate for people that are a little more beginning students? Or, you know,
I think you should stay with the rock until you feel comfortable to copy the whole mountain. But you can also copy a corner of a masterpiece just to focus on, you know, some part like you can find in the. Okay, basically you're on the website, right? You can see what other students are doing. I think these are all, you know, beginning steps. You cannot pass that. So you have to do the rocks, and then the mountains, then the trees. I don't know if you have a problem with rocks or what's your challenge?
No, some of the stuff is real complicated, but if you could send some examples of a little bit easier stuff to work with.
Okay, actually, you know, the first lesson. Here's the first lesson I did, right? Let me show you the first lesson here. You should practice this. I took this as a bad example, but it's good exercise to get a hold on how to use the brush vertically. Okay, so you have to keep the tip rounded, tucked in, concealed, we call that. When you draw a line, you write it like a calligraphy, and then you combine the side strokes and we call this this movement, okay, side brush. That's your basic training. Nobody have done this. I'm surprised. So just copy this. I suppose you do it in class during my demo.
Yeah.
Just do these basic shapes, and then you progress to make this triangular more organic. That's what I talked about. The chi, the breath, and make it three-dimensional, right? So you should try this at least, and then we talk about more complicated dragging vein today, following this question I had last time, and then we did this one was from my teacher's first class. So because I was already good at the more contemporary landscape when I take this class, so he started with the washes right away. So I didn't really follow the beginning steps like I would teach my students to do from this. So this is my first assignment for you, Eric. Are you there?
Yeah, I've been doing that.
Oh, good. Yeah, just show me. So don't be afraid to share anything, so I can help you when I see that.